Okay. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. So inshallah today we're going to start with the story of the people of Kahf, or the cave. First, the reason this story was revealed is because there was actually a challenge to the Prophet ﷺ. So the people of Quraysh wanted to challenge the Prophet, peace be upon him, and they sought some help from like the people of the book. And those people came up with an obscure story from the previous times. So this story is not found in the Bible itself, but it's found in secondary sources. Most likely it happened after Jesus alayhi salam. So like 300 years was the duration of that story, right? And it took place after Isa, after Jesus. Likely maybe 100, 150 years after Jesus, which makes it also 150 years or so before the coming of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. Because we know that there are like 600 years between Prophet Isa and Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. So in your mind, you can imagine that the setting of the story, the time of the story is right in between Prophet Jesus or Prophet Isa alayhi salam and Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu salam. All right, just to give you an idea. This is not the only opinion, but this is one of the common opinions that these people came after Isa alayhi salam. All right, so the challenge was, go to this prophet who claims to be a prophet and ask him if he knows anything about the story of the people of the cave. Because it's not a common story, it's not a story you can easily find in the scriptures, right? Like I said, it might be documented in some obscure manuscript here or there, but it's not common. Not even the average Christian would know it, or the average Jewish person would know it. And not only that, to make it even more difficult, they said, ask him specifically how many people were they, the people of the cave, how many of them were there, and what was the duration of their sleep. So ask him very, very specific questions. And this is why you notice that throughout the story, there are references to the numbers, the number of the people, how many were they, and how long they slept. So the reason of that is because that was actually the challenge, the question. Now, what you see really nice about the Quran, because these are not important questions, they're like superfluous, they don't really help you if you know how many people were they or how long. So you see that the Quran shifts the narrative and starts talking about the lessons of the story. And we're going to see that very clearly. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala implicitly reprimanding those people for focusing so much on these secondary issues and not focusing on the gist of the story, the core, the essence of the story, which is like, look at these young people and what they did and what they accomplished. It's like really miraculous. And you ignore all of that and you just focus on these like superfluous or these superficial facts. So keep that in mind as like a setting of the story. It happened again between Prophet Isa alayhi salam, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, somewhere in the middle. It's like maybe situated right in the middle. And the reason it came in here is because it was a challenge to the Prophet alayhi salam, asking him not only if he knew the story itself, but also specific questions of how many people were there and how long they slept. All right. So let us start with that first ayah. You notice the first ayah, أَمْ حَسِبْتَ أَنَّ أَصْحَابَ الْكَهْفِ وَالرَّقِيمِ كَانُوا مِنْ آيَاتِنَا عَجَبًا. So this is ayah number 9. So you think that the people of the cave and Ar-Raqim, and we're going to talk about Ar-Raqim in a minute, كَانُوا مِنْ آيَاتِنَا عَجَبًا. You think this is surprising? You think this is wondrous, or this is something of, is it shocking? So this is like a rhetorical question. Like you should, oh Prophet, you should not be surprised Yes, there were miracles in the story, but it's more common than you think. And this is like about the faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that anytime you work for the sake of Allah, that's a great lesson. Anytime you work for the sake of Allah, you're going to see miracles. So don't think that this is a one-time event. It will occur again and again as long as you follow the footsteps of these people. They did something for the sake of Allah, and that's why they saw these miracles, but it's not limited to them. So this actually gives us a lot of hope that anytime we do something proactive for the sake of Allah, we're going to see miracles. It doesn't have to be the same miracles, but we will see something in return from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So think about this rhetorical question. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling the Prophet, don't think this is a coincidence or a one-time thing. It will occur much more than you think. Don't think this is surprising. And a reason I want to mention this is because I see a lot of this today. Like a lot of Muslims, over and over again, they keep being surprised that, for example, oh, look how the non-Muslims are treating us. Look, there is a lot of Islamophobia. Look, they don't like us. It's a similar question. Don't be surprised. I mean, you're surprised the first time, the second time. The Quran is telling us, like, grow a spine. Get ready. It will be difficult. You're surprised the first time, the second time, but then study history. If you study history, you see many people have gone through similar trials and tribulations. So this is like a wake-up call in the Quran. Like when you study the stories of the people before you, when you study the patterns of history, that element of surprise is not going to be as much, because you're going to realize many people before you have gone through similar trials. Like in this country, many minorities before us, I mean, the African Americans, the Catholics, the Italians, the Irish, the Jewish, many of them have gone through trials. We're not the first people to be, like, say, under, the gun or being targeted. And inshallah, this is a phase and it will go away. But this is a message from the Quran. When you look at the stories before you, like the story of the people of the cave or any other story, it will remove much of that surprise that is not healthy. Like you're always shocked because look how people are treating me. This is a fact of life. Just get over it, basically. So that is a lesson that is important here. The other thing you notice in this ayah is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned two types of people, or two groups of people. It's not just the people of the cave, which we're going to talk about in detail, those young people, but it mentions also Ar-Raqim, the people of Raqim. What is Raqim? If you know some Arabic, Raqim comes from Raqam or Raqama, right? In modern Arabic, Raqam means a number, right? But also Raqama is to write, to inscribe, especially something that you can feel. So if it's inscribed on a stone or a tablet, right? That is Raqam, right? And there are different opinions as to what Ar-Raqim here is referring to. So some people say it is the names of those people of the cave that was written on a tablet or on the gate or the outside of the cave. Others have said these are also the names of those people, but it was written or recorded by the authorities who were basically going after these young people. I take another opinion which is also very important. As you're going to see throughout the story, there's a lot of attention to dates and when things happen and how long they took. So here it also could be referring to people who are counting the days these people went missing. And this is something important. I mean, you notice a lot. Now, unfortunately, nowadays we still have the same problem. A lot of people go missing. A lot of young kids, children go missing. And what happens when people go missing? Especially the parents, the people who are close to them, they keep account of every single day. You go to a mother after 5 years, she will tell you exactly how many days her boy, her girl have been missing. So it's likely that at least the relatives, the parents of those young people kept a record of how long, their kids were missing, right? So keep in mind, as we go through the story, we're going to follow two people. the first group of people are the people of the cave, and then those people who cared, those people who were recording things, those people who were concerned about these people. And these are the people of Ar-Raqim. All right? So that is also, and that's something is going to be referenced over and over again about, like, for example, if you just go to, like, through a couple of ayat, right? You're going to see, ثم بعثناهم لنعلم أي, or before that, فضربنا على آذانهم في الكهف سنين عددا. So we let them go to this sleep for a number of years. So you see a reference to the number of years. This is ayah number 11. Ayah number 12, it says, and then we resurrected them, so that we know which of the two parties were more precise in counting the duration. So it seems like not only one party, but two parties were competing almost in counting the duration, the number of days, the number of years, and so on. And we'll talk about those, parties, but just to, let you know that many verses actually in the story keep referring to this, enumeration, this counting, and so on. Some scholars have indicated even that maybe these people were the first to even have a calendar, or maybe the concept of a calendar might have come from here. Allahu Alam, we have to do more research to see that. But because there are also some say this happened before Jesus. So, but if we take the opinion that it happened after Jesus, then I think we know the calendar started before them. All right. So if we start, reading the story, the first thing that, hit us, right, or hits us, is that if you look in the next ayah, إِذْ أَوَى الْفِتْيَةُ إِلَى الْكَهْفِ, when these young people sought shelter in the cave. Like, you notice it's already skipping a big part of the story. Like, immediately it tells us that they're going to the cave. And then later it kind of resets and starts from the beginning. And you might say, well, this is kind of, it's kind of confusing. Why is it not in order? And the only thing I can think of, if you watch some movies, you know how in the beginning they show you like the end, or like somebody in trouble, and then they tell you, 5 years early, or 5 days, or however many before the incident. And actually that's a really nice way to build curiosity, because we see somebody in trouble, now you are so curious to find out, like, how did they end up here? Like, what have they done to end up here? And likewise here, you notice, subhanAllah, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started the story is at the core of the plot. So I want you to imagine this. Young people deciding all of a sudden to go to a cave, to a place that is dark, that is obscure. It's like a prison. And voluntarily. I mean, does it not raise your curiosity that, like, out of the blue, and it doesn't tell us why, it doesn't tell us what they have done, and who's after them, who's chasing them. Just from the get-go, from the beginning, these people deciding on their own, voluntarily, to walk into this cave and stay there. Like, who, in their right mind, who would go and say, I'm going to go to prison and live there for however long? I don't know if they knew about the 300 years, but however long, you don't do that for nothing, right? If I say, I'm going to go and, please open the prison door, I want to go live there for however long. That's going to raise your curiosity. Like, why would people like this, young people, as we say, their life is ahead of them, like, right? And they decide to do that. So right from the beginning, your curiosity is going to be very, like, high. You're going to be very intrigued why people, young and, in the state would voluntarily want to go and live in a cave or hide in a cave. All right, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, right, إِذْ أَوَى الْفِتْيَةُ إِلَى الْكَهْفِ. And all it says here, فَقَالُوا رَبَّنَا آتِنَا مِن لَدُنْكَ رَحْمَةً وَهَيِّئْ لَنَا مِنْ أَمْرِنَا رَشَدًا. So all they do is make a dua, right? And this dua seems like, it shows that they might be in some trouble, right? Like, we ask you for your mercy, give us from your mercy, and give us a way out. هيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. As if they're lost or they need some help, some guidance, and they're like begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this kind of guidance as to take them out of the trouble they're in. All right. And then the next two ayat, again, it keeps talking about what's happening to them before we go back to the beginning. So it says that, and فَضَرَبْنَا, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them sleep, so He put something on their ears so they're not disturbed by the outside. And they were sleeping in that cave for many years. It does not tell us a number of years yet, but it says a number of years. سِنِينَ عَدَدًا. And then ثُمَّ بَعَثْنَاهُمْ, and then we resurrected them. We brought them back so that we know who of the two parties, or which of the two parties are more accurate in counting the duration. Okay. Now you see this, نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ نَبَأَهُمْ بِالْحَقِّ. We indeed tell you, narrate to you the story with the truth. Now, this is interesting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this here. Because remember, like I said, a lot of these people were interested in these superficial facts. Like how many people, how long, the duration. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, now we're going to show you how to tell a story. We're going to show you how a story is told. And like when you're able to benefit from a story way later, like now we're in 2025 and we're still able to learn a lot from these people. That is a beneficial story. Like it's not going to help much if we learn how many they were. Does it really matter if they were 7 or 11 or 15? Is it going to matter if they were in the cave for 300 years or 400 years? But, so here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, now listen, this is the real story. This is what's important. This is what matters about the story. So that's why you see the shift. نحن, like we're going to tell the story بالحق, with the truth. This is what's going to matter. This is what's going to help. All right? And now you see, the first thing, إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ. The first thing that is mentioned, they are young people. And let me stop here because this is really important. If I ask you, what are the surahs or even the verses that we repeat on a regular basis, that we say on a regular basis? Give me some examples. Let's make it sound, a bit interactive. What is the most commonly recited surah? Fatiha. Okay, great. All right. What is another example? Surah Al-Fatiha is easy. What are some other surahs or even verses that we recite on a regular basis? Ikhlas. Okay. Like after some prayers, you can say maybe the last 3 surahs together. Okay. What else? Ayatul Kursi before you sleep. Also before you sleep, you can say Surat Al-Mulk. It says from the punishment of the grave, right? And then we have Surat Al-Kahf that we recite every Friday. Now, this is not an easy matter to recite a surah, a whole full surah every Friday, because you could say, well, the story is mentioned once in the Quran. So what is the likelihood that we're going to encounter the surah? But you recite it every Friday? So this surah and this story, which is like the main story of the surah, like it's the primary story of the surah, is recited over and over again, every week. And it's a story about young people. This is really important because I believe that Islam is the religion of the young. This story is really telling us that look what young people can do. Look how much they can change. Look how change is done. You change yourself first. And you are vocal about it. You're proud of the truth you're trying to spread. And no matter what happens, because usually the young are driven, they're ambitious, they're not scared like the old people, right? And they have a message. This is a great combination. So I don't know what else can be more motivational than seeing like young people being the role model for all of us. Islam, I say, is the religion of young people, of the youth. And this story is a primary example how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has praised this type of people and how much they have done. And inshallah, we're going to see in detail, we're going to see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning some of their really essential qualities. So the first quality is innahum fitya. And when you say the word fitya or fata, some scholars have said they're not even 20. Fata could be like a teenager. But even by, if we go to the extreme opinion of saying they're in their 20s, right? Still very young to affect a change like this. All right? So innahum fitya, that's the first description, the first quality or feature they have. They're young people. Amanu bi rabbihim, they had faith, they have iman in their Lord. Wazidnahum huda, because when you have iman, Allah will increase you. We're going to see this concept also mentioned over and over again. That you start, you take the first step, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase you, will give you much, much more. And the step you make might be very small because that's all you can do. That's all you can, that's all you have. But then Allah, because you did that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you so much. Like one example might come up. Like this story seems to be so fantastical, like people sleeping for 300 years. What is this about? We're going to talk about this. Yes, it is a miracle, exactly, because when you show such initiative, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make miracles. It doesn't have to be like them sleeping for 300 years, but you're going to see miracles in your community. You're going to see miracles in your society. You're going to see miracles, because we always complain, look, Muslims are not doing this and they're like defeated and we're victims here and there. Yes, because we're not being proactive, because we're not taking the initiative. And he's telling us, just like those people had miracles, like the sleeping for 300 years and then waking up, then being resurrected, a great miracle. Likewise, you're going to see miracles in your life. But you have to take the initiative. So first, وَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدَى, because they initiated, they started, they had they took the first step of Iman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increased their guidance. That's number one. But you always notice that they're taking the first step. آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ وَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدَى. They believed in their Lord and we increased their guidance. And by the way, there's a beautiful hadith. It's a hadith Qudsi. It illustrates this concept, this principle really, really well. It says in that hadith, أَنَا عِنْدَ حُسْنِ ظَنِّ عَبْدِي بِي. I am what my servant thinks of me. If you think well of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will think well of you. If you think that Allah can do things for you, Allah will do things for you. If you think that Allah is not going to do things for you, He's not going to do things for you. So Allah will be at what you think, where you are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will be with you. And then he basically explained it really well. He said, if somebody remembers me in himself, I will remember him within myself. If he remembers me in a group of people, I will mention him in a group better than them. If he comes to me walking, I will run to him. So you keep reading this hadith over and over again. If he come, for example, by a handspan, I will come by an arm length. So you see always two things. You see the servant, the human being is taking the initial step, and is usually small. And you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing much, much more. But again, the condition is you start, you take the initiative, no matter how small it is. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows this is all you can do. You tried your best. So let's keep that in mind and let's follow the story here. So first thing, they show their iman and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase their guidance. Second, وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ.
we put this rabata is like to tie something. That's why we call it aqidah is your belief. It's also like aqada, so to tie. Because sometimes your heart is trembling, maybe scared because they're going to have a lot of opposition. So they need this from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They need that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put this tranquility, this calm in their hearts. وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ. Why? So that is the second initiative they took. They were not silent. They were not saying, oh, we're going to keep this between us, right? We believe in Allah, but, everybody is against us, right? And no one is going to listen. We might be persecuted, so might as well just keep our faith to ourselves. That's not what they did. In fact, it was the opposite. If qamu, like this verb is so like an active verb. Qama is to rise, is to stand up. Like we say qiyam in salat, right? So that actually, this verb, qama, actually embodies a lot of action. If you're lazy, you say you're sitting down. You're not doing much, you sit down, or you're laying. But if you stand up, if you rise, that shows, action. So those people were very proactive. If qamu, and then they proclaimed, they made it very clear, very public, very vocal. فَقَالُوا, they said, رَبُّنَا رَبُّ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Our Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. All right? And very, very specifically, لَن نَدْعُوَ مِن دُونِهِ إِلَهًا. We will not worship anyone, any other deity except Him. Because if we do so, then we're going astray. لَقَدْ قُلْنَا إِذًا شَطَطًا. Now, a brother last time asked me, if we read the introductory part of Surat Al-Kahf, the first part we covered last time, it seems like it's going all over the place. Like he said, I'm not able to find some coherent structure of the introduction. So what we're going to do, inshallah, as a response to clarify this, we're going to tie anything we read in Surat Al-Kahf back to the beginning, because the beginning is basically laying the foundation. So like one connection we see here, we see these people who are calling to pure monotheism. If you remember, in the beginning of the surah, it was talking about the opposite. For example, it was talking about those who claim, وَيُنذِرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ وَلَدًا. Those people who claim a son to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So that's the opposite. Now, if we believe, or if we say that these people came after Jesus, after Isa alayhi salam, like we take that opinion that they came between Jesus and Muhammad, peace be upon them. So they were Christian, but they seem to have belonged to a branch of Christianity called Unitarian or Unitarianism. And those people kept monotheism. Kept the monotheism, the message, the true message of Isa alayhi salam. So they were not from the Trinitarian branch, they were from the Unitarian branch. So they were trying to salvage, to save the pure message of Isa alayhi salam. And you see that pretty much in contrast with those people found in the beginning of the surah, those who claim that God took a son, or they believe in the Trinity, and so on. So I hope we start seeing the connection between the beginning of the surah and what we're gonna read in the remaining of the surah. The stories of the surah. So you see here a pure monotheism, and like I said, they were very open about it. They were public, and they took a lot of risk, because the environment around them was not very friendly, as we're going to see. And the proof is the next ayah. هَؤُلَاءِ قَوْمُنَا. So our people, so it seems like the vast majority of those people, the people around them, قَوْمُنَا اتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِهِ آلِهَةً. They have taken other idols. لَوْلَا يَأْتُونَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِسُلْطَانٍ بَيِّنٍ. We just want them to bring some clear proof. I mean, if they can bring some proofs that what they're doing is correct, fine. right? So they're open for discussion. They're open for to have a conversation with these people. Just bring us a proof. We'll listen. If you bring a proof, we'll listen. فَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنِ افْتَرَى عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا. Otherwise, it's wrongdoing, right? It's injustice to create a lie, to fabricate a lie on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so now we're gonna see a shift in the story. It's very clear what these people did, how they took the initiative. Not only they believed in the pure message of monotheism, but they decided to spread it and to declare, to make it public and known to people. They were making da'wah basically to all the people around them. But something happens here, it seems, and you see this word وَإِذْ, which kind of introduces like some sudden thing, sudden incident or event. وَإِذِ اعْتَزَلْتُمُوهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. This actually, i'tizal, is basically means to seek seclusion. So why all of a sudden, those people who are very open and they're going to people and telling them about the message, why did they decide to seek seclusion and seek shelter in a cave? And some people might say, well, aren't they like running away from society or running away from reality? Are they taking the easy way out? No one should say that in light of the fact that we saw earlier in the surah, in the verses, that they were very vocal. So apparently they were not cowards. I mean, they were very courageous, in fact, and they were going out of their way to deliver the message. It seems that at this point they learned that they're gonna come in confrontation with the authorities, with the king. So now let us study or analyze what were the options that these people have. Let's, inshallah, entertain some ideas. What do you think? What are some of the options that those people were faced with? And let's think of all the possibilities here. We can't really be sure which exactly it was, but let's contemplate. What were the options? If you were calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're calling to the true message of Islam, of monotheism, and all of a sudden you decided to go and live in a cave, and somebody says, are they taking the easy way out? Are they just fleeing or running away from their responsibility, right? Let us examine the options they would have had. If, for example, they were facing some challenge from the authorities or from the king. So what are some possibilities? What could they have done differently? Like you say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to the cave. That's maybe, not the most courageous thing to do. What else would you have done? Give me some ideas. Anybody?
They could have kept going, preaching in the face of adversity.
Sure. So one option would have been to keep doing what they were doing. And at some point, they're going to come in confrontation with the authorities, with the soldiers of the king, right? So what could have happened there? Let's say things escalate, right? So either one, they could renounce the religion if they come under a lot of pressure. One possibility that we cannot ignore is that they could have renounced under a lot of pressure, or maybe even torture. They might renounce the religion. Okay, that's not the best option, right? Another possibility, they could say, well, no, we're not going to renounce our religion. Let's go through the torture, whatever it takes, and be tortured to death. Okay, that's a possibility. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not ask you to do that, right? And also you have to think about the net result. Like, ultimately, does that accomplish much? Maybe they die before their message is well known, or the people may not know why they died. What else? Okay. Go ahead. So inshallah, we're gonna take a little break.